Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. It was a breezy June morning when I realized my favorite shirt was missing. Not just any shirt, but a limited edition piece from my favorite designer, something I had splurged on to celebrate my recent promotion. As I rummaged through my wardrobe, confusion turned to annoyance. That shirt wasn't just fabric stitched together, it was a work of art, and it was mine. I live a simple life with simple joys, my photography, my small circle of friends, and, I thought, my wife, Clara. As the day unfolded, the missing shirt was pushed to the back of my mind, replaced by deadlines and client calls. It wasn't until late evening, when I was mindlessly scrolling through social media, that it resurfaced with a vengeance. A new post popped up on my feed, a photo of Clara at some ritzy downtown event, her smile wide, her arm draped around a man I didn't recognize. The man was laughing, his charisma bursting through the screen. And he was wearing my shirt. My heart sank, then boiled in anger. I stared at the picture longer than I should have. The details of the shirt, the unique button pattern, the distinctive collar, there was no mistaking it. The caption read, "A night to remember." Indeed, it would be. Fury mixed with betrayal gnawed at me as I called Clara. She didn't pick up, no surprise there. I texted her the picture with a simple message, "Nice shirt." Within minutes, my phone rang. Clara's voice came through, shaky, "Tom, I can explain." "Who is he?" I cut her off, not in the mood for excuses. "He's just a friend, Tom, please, let me explain." "A friend who wears my clothes." My voice rose, a mixture of hurt and incredulity lacing each word. The conversation spiraled quickly. Denials. Half-truths. Finally, the truth. His name was Rick, and yes, they were more than friends. I hung up. The room felt colder, lonelier. Betrayed by my wife, mocked by the sight of her lover in my own shirt, something within me snapped. Revenge, a dark and twisting path, seemed the only way forward. I wanted her to feel a fraction of the pain gnawing at me. Over the next few days, I devised a plan. As a photographer, I had access to venues, people. Reputation was everything in our circles, and Clara, a budding fashion designer, was no exception. A few calls, some strategically placed words, and her credibility began to crumble. Client after client pulled away, whispers of her unprofessional behavior shadowing her every step. The divorce papers were the final blow. She signed them, tears in her eyes, remorse written all over her face. But it was too late for apologies. Too late for us. When it was all said and done, Clara moved out of the city. Our paths never crossed again. Sitting in my now half-empty apartment, surrounded by the remnants of a life we built together, I wondered if the price of revenge was too steep. The shirt lay folded on my desk, a memento of the past, a catalyst for change. I picked up my camera, the weight familiar in my grasp. Tomorrow, I'd start anew. For now, it was just me, my art, and the lingering question of whether any of it was worth it. The city was abuzz with the latest gossip. Clara's fall from grace was the topic of every whispered conversation and veiled glance. As I walked through the crowded streets to my next photo shoot, the murmurs followed me, a constant reminder of the revenge I had exacted. I had spent the morning ensuring every detail was in place for today's assignment, a high-profile charity event where the city's elite would gather. My camera, a loyal companion, hung heavily around my neck, a tool that had become an instrument of my retribution. As I entered the venue, the familiar flashes of other photographers greeted me. I scanned the room, noting the influential faces, the potential for further damage. Then, I saw him, Rick, Clara's lover, mingling with some of my clients. He was unaware of who I was, or the destruction that had spiraled from his actions. I approached, camera ready, a plan forming. "Rick, right?" I extended a hand, which he shook, unsuspecting. "Tom," I introduced myself. His face registered no recognition, just the polite nod of an acquaintance. "I've heard a lot about you," I continued, the words smooth, edged with venom only I could detect. "Good things, I hope," Rick chuckled, oblivious. "Depends on who you ask," I quipped, snapping a photo of him, a close-up, capturing the unease that flickered across his face. "What do you mean?" His smile faltered. "Just the usual chatter," I shrugged, my role as the casual observer perfected over years behind the lens. "Hey, why don't you introduce me to your friends?" I nodded toward the group he had been conversing with. As Rick led me over, I mingled, my words laced with hints of scandal, leaving a trail of doubt and suspicion that lingered long after I moved on. Each interaction was a calculated step, each photograph a piece of evidence of the chaos I could create. The event wore on, and I continued to document, to interact. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a friend, confirming that rumors of Rick's involvement with a married woman were now circulating wildly. The seed of distrust was planted, growing with each passing minute. Finally, I saw Clara. She had just arrived, looking out of place, her eyes scanning the room nervously. She spotted Rick, relief visible on her face as she moved toward him. I readied my camera. "Clara," I called out just as she reached Rick. Both turned toward me, their expressions a mix of surprise and fear. "Tom, what are you?" I didn't let her finish. Just capturing the moment, I said coldly, the camera clicking away as their faces transformed from confusion to realization. Clara approached me, her posture defensive. "Tom, please, can we talk?" "There's nothing left to say," I replied, stepping back to frame another shot, the lens focusing on her distressed face, a perfect picture of guilt. The fallout was immediate. By the next morning, the photos were everywhere, the story twisted into a narrative of deceit and betrayal. Clara and Rick were now pariahs in their own circles, their reputations tainted by the strokes of my camera and the whispers of my words. As I reviewed the photos on my computer, a hollow satisfaction settled in. The revenge was complete, but the victory felt empty. I turned off the screen, the images of the night haunting the darkened room. What had I become in my quest for retribution? Was it justice, or had I lost myself to the darker instincts that now guided my hand? The questions lingered, unanswered, as the city slept, unaware of the storm that had just begun to brew. The city dawned gray and overcast, the somber clouds mirroring the turmoil within me. The aftermath of the charity event had turned into a frenzy of scandalous headlines, each article more condemning than the last. Clara and Rick had become the faces of betrayal, their lives unraveling publicly, just as I had intended. But the satisfaction I expected to feel was overshadowed by a growing sense of unease. As I prepared for the day, my phone buzzed relentlessly. Journalists, eager for a comment on the scandal I had orchestrated, were met with silence. I was not ready to reveal my role, not yet, if ever. My next move was unclear. The initial rush of revenge had faded, leaving a residue of doubt. I grabbed my camera and headed out, hoping the familiar streets would clear my mind. But peace was elusive. Mid-morning, as I walked through the bustling city park, a familiar voice halted me. "Tom." It was Rick, his face drawn, eyes hard with anger and confusion. He was alone, approaching rapidly. I stopped, tensing. "Rick. You're bold to approach me." "I know what you did," he said, coming to a stop a few feet away. His voice was low, charged with emotion. "You've ruined everything. Was it worth it, Tom? Destroying her career, our lives." I met his gaze, unflinching. "She betrayed me, Rick. You both did. What did you expect? Revenge? This is what satisfies you." His hands clenched at his sides. "You think this ends with us being pariahs? You're wrong. There are consequences, Tom." A threat, veiled but clear. I raised an eyebrow. "Are you threatening me now? You think you have the upper hand here?" No, he sighed, his anger subsiding into resignation. I'm not here to threaten. I'm here to warn. There's more at stake than you realize. Clara didn't tell you everything. The assertion caught me off guard. What are you talking about? Before Rick could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, hesitated, then answered. I caught fragments of a tense conversation, urgent whispers, mentions of a meeting, something bigger unfolding. Rick ended the call, his attention snapping back to me. This isn't over, Tom. But not for the reasons you think. With that cryptic warning, he turned and walked away, leaving me with more questions than answers. Shaken by the encounter, I decided to dig deeper. I needed to understand what Rick meant, what Clara had withheld. My next stop was the one place I had avoided since the fallout, our old apartment, where Clara still had belongings. The apartment was quiet, untouched since Clara's hurried exit. I sifted through her things, searching for anything that could shed light on Rick's mysterious implications. Then, in the back of a drawer, I found a series of letters and documents, legal papers, communication with someone named M. The content was cryptic, mentioning dates, plans, and apologies for things gone wrong. The pieces were falling into place, but the full picture was still out of focus. I needed more. Just then, my phone rang. It was Clara. Tom, we need to talk. It's not what you think, her voice was earnest, desperate. Where are you? I asked, my resolve firming. At the cafe where we first met. Please, Tom. There's more to this story. I agreed to meet, my curiosity piqued and my caution heightened. As I left the apartment, the documents securely in my bag, I knew this meeting could change everything. What secrets lay buried beneath the wreckage of our marriage? And at what cost would they come to light? The cafe loomed ahead, a place of beginnings now a venue for revelations. As I stepped inside, the past and present collided, setting the stage for truths that would either mend or forever sever what remnants of trust remained. The cafe was dimly lit, the air thick with the aroma of roasted coffee beans and the undercurrent of tension. Clara sat at a corner table, her features etched with worry. As I approached, her eyes lifted to meet mine, guarded, yet pleading. Tom, she began, her voice a whisper, thank you for coming. I sat down, my expression unreadable. Talk. Clara took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she clasped them on the table. I know you think you know everything, but you don't. What happened, it wasn't just an affair. I leaned forward, skepticism sharp. I saw the photos, Clara. I saw the messages. It was more complicated than that, she insisted. Rick and I, we were part of something bigger. A plan to expose a major scandal at my fashion company. He wasn't just my lover, he was a whistleblower, and I was helping him. I paused, processing her words. Why keep it a secret? Because it was dangerous. The people involved are powerful, and if they knew, they'd destroy everything. I couldn't risk telling you, not without proof. The room spun slightly as the implications settled in. Had my revenge been misguided? A pawn in a larger game? And the shirt? I asked, the details still gnawing at me. Clara's face flushed. That was a mistake. Rick needed something to wear that night for a meeting with a contact. It was impulsive and stupid, I admit. I rubbed my temples, the weight of her revelations heavy. So what now? Now, Clara said, pulling out a folder stuffed with documents from her bag. We go public. Together. We expose them, Tom. The offer hung between us, tempting yet treacherous. I considered her words, the possibility of redemption, of correcting my course. But the betrayal, the lies, it was too much. No, Clara. My voice was cold, resolute. I can't. I won't. Her face fell, disappointment etching her features. Tom, please. I will expose them, I interrupted. But not with you. This is where our paths diverge for good. Clara's eyes welled up with tears, but she nodded slowly, the finality of our parting settling in. I stood, taking the documents with me. Goodbye, Clara. Leaving the cafe, I felt a mix of liberation and sorrow. The revenge had been sweet, yet bitter. Over the next weeks, I used my skills and contacts to expose the scandal. Anonymous tips, strategically leaked documents, photos at just the right moments, it was a symphony of destruction directed at those who deserved it. But this time, it was just. It was right. The fallout was catastrophic for the company involved. Arrests were made, careers ended, and the truth came to light. Rick reached out once to thank me, but I kept it brief. My revenge was complete, and my ties to that part of my life were severed. Months later, as I sat in my studio, surrounded by my photographs, a sense of peace settled over me. The past was a closed book, its chapters written and its lessons learned. I had acted violently, ruthlessly, driven by pain and a thirst for revenge. But in the end, it was the pursuit of truth that reshaped my world. Clara and I would never speak again, our mutual hatred of betrayal a chasm too wide to bridge. But I moved forward, my integrity intact, my future unclouded by the shadows of deception.